So there on throughout the rest of the Old Testament was the division of the northern and southern kingdoms, all supposedly God's people, Hebrews, Jews, whatever you wanted to call them. But again, the southern kingdom fared better in following and serving the Lord. They, in their line of approximately, they each had 20 kings. The southern kings were generally a little better than Israel's kings. But it was under that first king of the northern kingdom, Jeroboam, that something began to happen, and again, a further crumbling of the faith. And that was that he was afraid if the people 3 times a year would go down like they were supposed to worship God in Jerusalem, that maybe they'd be won back to the southern kingdom. And maybe that breach would be healed. And maybe they would all become one nation again. And he didn't really want that to happen because he'd probably have to give up the throne to the king of Judah, which was where the temple was, the capital, Jerusalem, and where Israel all started, where God's people started. So to protect his kingdom, he devised a plan and a scheme. And he said, I'm going to build 2 altars. One in Dan, one in Bethel, 2 of the cities in the northern kingdom. And we're going to make a golden calf in each one of them. And he said to the people, it's too far for you to go all the way to Jerusalem and worship. Just worship here. It's easier. It's convenient. It's too far to go all the way to Jerusalem to worship and to church. So just come here. And these golden calves, they're your gods. They're the ones that delivered you out of Egypt. And from that time forward, all of the northern kings followed that pattern and followed the sins of Jeroboam. And if you read, it'll say they followed the sins of Jeroboam the first. Later on, there was a Jeroboam the second. So the northern kingdom generally worshiped God at those 2 altars. And they worshiped a golden calf. And we know worshiping golden calves that didn't work out too good in the Old Testament. When Moses came down and they were worshiping the golden calves, that didn't work out too good there either. And so it was at that time, and that's what I wanted to give a little bit of background about that. In 1 Kings 16, 25 and 26, I want to introduce to you a king named Omri. And the Bible said he did that which was evil in the eyes of the Lord, and he did more evil than all who were before him. For he walked in the ways of Jeroboam, there he was, Jeroboam, and in the sins that he made Israel to sin, provoking the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger by their idols. Okay, so an evil king. Down a few more verses, 30 and 33, it talks about Omri's son, the next king. Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of the Lord more than all who were before him. And if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. He erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria, and Ahab made Asherah. Ahab did more to provoke the Lord, the God of Israel, and to anger than all the kings of Israel that were before him. Now, when my Bible says that God is slow to anger, and he's long-suffering, and he's very merciful, then if you say that somebody was more evil and made God angrier than anybody before you, I'd say that was a pretty bad person. And so Ahab was that wicked king, wicked, more wicked than all those that were before him. And one of his greatest detriments was that he married a woman named Jezebel. And the Bible speaks, about Jezebel, who was a Baal worshiper. Now, when queens came into the kingdom and married outside, it was not uncommon for the king to build them a temple that they could worship their God. And after all, they're in a new country, a strange land, strange customs. They'd have the comfort of their God. Solomon did that for his wife. And again, it was not a good thing or a right thing, but they just normally would privately worship their God. Okay, but Jezebel had a mandate. And she so influenced the people of God that she did not just want to worship Baal, but she wanted it to make Baal the national religion of all of Israel. So she began to destroy the prophets of the Lord and set up altars to Baal. Now, there had been a few in Israel's history during the time of the judges, a little altar here, a little altar there to Baal, but her mandate was that she would so influence the people that the entire northern kingdom of Israel would become Baal worshipers. In the worship of Baal, not only were they not worshiping the Lord, our God, but they were offering up, incense and sacrifices to him, and had sexual immorality in their religion. And even in extreme circumstances, they would sacrifice their own children on the altar to their god Baal. And Baal was the god that supposedly was the god of fertility of the land. So he was in control of the sun, and he was in control of the rain, because that is what produced fruitful land and crops. So that is the god that they worship, and there were many different Baals over different cities, but her mandate was destroy the prophets of the Lord, destroy the worship of Yahweh, the God of the Jews, and we are going to begin to set up the worship of Baal. She was more dangerous than any of the other queens because of her outspokenness, aggressiveness, and her determination to get her own way, no matter what the cost. We can see through her life she destroyed many innocent people, stepped over many innocent people, slandered the name of good people, took their land, robbed their possessions to get what she wanted and to get her own way. Very